Well, hello, hello. Once again, welcome 2022. It's real, it's here, it's happening. And welcome to the More Than Graphics podcast. This is obviously I'm Danielle.
And I'm Cicely.
And I think what we're continuing on this conversation of new year, new things, we're talking about prioritize. And I don't know about y'all, but there are some things I really need to prioritize in 2022. And I'm starting a whole lot of lists of things in my head that, I want to drop from 2021 that I want to start over again maybe in 2022 or just start in general, like just do over. Can we hit the easy button, the reset button, and just start over again in 2022? Cicely, how about you? What's going on in your world?
Well, as we all know, I'm gonna be talking about this for the rest of the year. School is back in play for me, so that is a prior, loosely a priority for me as well. I mean, it's a big priority, but just kind of prioritizing my time, like learning how to reorganize my time and juggle all of the things while doing all the things, while completing all the things, while being a mom and a wife, and working on my business and working on my creative outlet. So prioritizing fun, I guess we could say too, like finding time for
Ooh.
fun in the midst of all the chaos. So that's what I'm prioritizing these
Oh my
days.
gosh, we had a very brief chat about, well, not even brief. It was really kind of in depth about this on our last Clubhouse conversation in regards to new activities for the new year.
Yes.
And Cicely talked about some activities that she really wants to do in
Yes.
2022, and I'm just like, come on, like I'm for this.
So
This
see,
is
that's the fun. That's the prioritizing the fun. Like I'm all about fun. I feel that like, we spend too much time as adults being serious. I want to have some fun. I'm going to get back to the fun.
yes,
I'm ready for fun. 2022
absolutely.
fun.
I like that. All right, so priorities definitely all around. We're just kind of getting a good feel, good footing, if you will. February is that time where it's the second month. Okay, so whatever we thought we was gonna do in December rolled into February, and then now February is kind of like the new sort of new jam, and now we're rolling into 2022 on February. Like, okay, now I can really do the things that I dropped off in January. So for a lot of women in tech, women creatives, February is kind of that clean slate. We talk a lot about self love and prioritizing certain things for ourselves so that we can keep putting ourselves forward. So I think this is the perfect way for us to kind of kick off on the creative side with some more creatives who are also doing some really cool things in 2022, and to also just kind of have that unique, you know, conversation, day-to-day conversation with other people who are just striving like any other, either any one of us out there in the world. Woo, I had to get that out. So, yeah. So I definitely want to introduce our next guest, Cicely. I know this is my favorite part about the podcast. By the way, I love the fact that I can put all the things together, but Cicely is the VO. Okay, so she does all the professional. This is
The hands, the voice, all the
all
things.
the things. This is my favorite part. I get up and shout every time. So yes, Cicely, you do your thing. Yes, yes. Go ahead.
All right. So today's guest is Shehla Faizi. Shehla is a mom of two boys who does freelance graphic design, illustration, and product photography. And as an extension from her experience producing and her hosting her own podcast, she also helps edit and produce other podcasts. And in whatever little time she does get to spare, she enjoys biking, playing Super Smash Bros. With her kids, and lounging with her four cats. Welcome to Shehla.
Thank you so much for having me, Danielle and Cicely. It's wonderful to be here with you guys.
Oh my gosh, I just love the fact that you play Smash Brothers like I do. Like we're gonna have to create a union or something. Like
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. Everything's changed. It's now Super Smash Brothers. When I was like smaller, there was only Street Fighter and it wasn't as
yes,
fancy. And I'm sitting there, oh my God, the backgrounds move. Everything moves. I don't know
Like there's so
what I'm
much.
doing. Yes. It's so much fun though, especially with your kids. And I think it's their time to take revenge. That's how I see it. Like they're like
hmm
really into trying to beat mom.
I'm gonna get you. Like it's
Yeah.
serious. Like they're really into it nowadays. That is super cool. Okay, so for people who don't know who you are and what you do, based just a little bit off the bio, like what's your day to day like as a creative?
Oh gosh. It can be so varied. And just because I've put my hands into more things than I can throw my book at. But you have your creative clients. I have my graphic design clients, not just from those who require like generic graphic design logos and stuff like that, even from broadcasting. They find out that I can do graphics. Can you do a podcast cover, illustrate a podcast? I just got done illustrating a podcast cover, and I love it. And but I'm literally doing like 6 different things at any given moment. So today's schedule was I have to create a modification of a podcast cover, have to edit another cover, and I also have to do like assistant work, production work for a third podcast. So I mean, it's not one thing at any given moment, and I love it that way. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love it because I think I love the variety of it. I don't think I could stick to doing just any one thing at any given moment.
I absolutely love that. And I think what's so kind of cool and what I kind of like get out of that so much is that every day is a new opportunity. Every day
Yeah.
is a new something new. And that can
Right.
be very energizing, especially for us women in tech, women creatives, right? Like
Right.
doing the mundane kind of makes us feel like we're going back in that robotic place of
Mm,
I am only the sum of my parts and that's
right.
it, which is the opposite of what this space is all about. So,
Yeah.
just real quickly, like as you're talking, I was totally thinking about some of the stats that we were looking about when we talk about, prioritize.
Right.
So in regards to career, according to like the Pew Research Center, 66% of young women ages 18 to 34 now rate a career high on their list of life priorities, since we're
Right.
talking about priorities. So I mean that could range for anything in tech, that could range for
Right.
anything in creative industry.
Right.
But now we're seeing this rise, this surge of people who actually want to have this all-time career high,
Right.
already from the get-go.
Right.
I think that's completely changed, obviously, within the 10 years, 10 years from ago, 10 years
Mhm.
ago. Let's take it to the 20-year mark even. I mean,
Right.
where there wasn't as many opportunities for women like us in tech.
Mm.
There
Right.
wasn't a lot of opportunities for women creatives. We could be creative, but there was only a threshold that we could actually achieve at that time.
And that's the thing. I think it's all comes down to us prioritizing, as you had mentioned. At that time, like, and when you said like from the 18 to 34, I was like, I'm way beyond that threshold. And like, but the point is that what for us, what we were told is this like family always comes first. And I'm not saying that family doesn't. Family is very important. But I think what we were not told and we forgot in that whole, I guess, mess of things is that we matter too, especially as creatives. We have a lot to offer, creative women and women in tech. And we have a lot to offer in terms of our creativity, our skill, and even just our viewpoints. It's just that we didn't know how to put ourselves first. You know, yeah, responsibilities aside, but our everything else also matters. Having a career also matters because you're
Mhm.
not just a mom, you're not just a wife, you're not just a this or just a that. You are a
Right.
person who has so much to offer. And I think
Mhm.
even now, even though the younger ones, I like mad props to all of them. They do so much, and I'm literally sitting there on TikTok. I'm jealous because these wonderful young women are they're into everything. Like they're into tech, they're into animation. They're living my dream,
Right.
and I'm glad that they are. But when we were at that age, we were not told that we could.
Mhm.
And at some point in my life, I'm like, stop. Okay. You can and you should. And I think that's
Mhm.
important to put that in front of yourself first, that you should
Mhm.
prioritize what's your like innate talent and innate gift.
Mhm. Yeah, I totally relate to that. I could totally see the difference between my mother's generation hearing
Mm,
"Yes, you can" and our generation hearing "Yes, we can." We hear
yes,
it, but we don't necessarily receive it in the same way. And
right,
based upon time and technology and advancement, that yes and that probability is a lot different then than it is now. So
right,
listening to "Yes, we can" now is okay. Yeah, actually, we can, and I
right,
can, and I will
right.
versus in other areas before this particular time zone or time set, it was a little bit different. It was yes you can, but
I,
and
And I'm gonna tell you, the internet, with all of its, it's got its dark parts. I'm
oh
not
yeah.
gonna lie about that. But for women and for people who didn't have, access to all of these opportunities,
Hmm.
it's been like a godsend. It
Yes.
really has because we've gotten a lot of control over a lot of things. I mean, like just 15 years from now, I couldn't imagine being able to start my own business, like freelance business,
Hmm.
on my own because I didn't know how. And the internet itself was not as advanced at that time to really be able to get me to where I needed to go. But
Right.
now, here we are.
Yes, I completely agree. Oh my gosh. So I guess the first initial kind of walk into question, how do you define priorities for yourself?
I think, again, it's one of those tricky things when you're a mom,
Sure.
especially because you won't want to prioritize one thing, but somebody's always there. Some little person's always there to throw a wrench into your plans. And again, kids generally don't mean any of it. It's just that they're kids and they're random and messy. That's how it is. But the fact is, I think, like, I'm a stay-at-home parent, and the flexibility of that since I work from home is that I can create a priority like with my work being at home again over the internet. I can get it done. I like previously you'd have to, and a lot of people do go out for jobs and everything, but now I can still do it at home and create a very realistic and a very doable plan for my own job and career, taking in clients and getting the work done, getting paid, and I don't even leave this space. Like, it's incredible, but we get it done.
Yeah, I love that. It's incredible, but we get it done. I'm
Yeah.
feeling the whole Hamilton, moment. Immigrants, we get the job done. Like I'm feeling that whole vibe because I just feel like that is the magic of us. That is the magic of being a creative. Is
Right,
we can create, we can take a blank canvas and create space.
right,
And that's like something that I always want to aspire to, especially going into New Year now. What blank spaces can I take and turn
right,
into an oasis? What blank space can I take and turn it into something that someone never thought possible because
right.
through working with a creative.
Mm.
So yeah, that totally hearts loving and all the things. Thank you for saying that. I know Cicely's taking notes. That's our thing. So if don't mind us, we go back and forth quite a bit. Just really taking all the heart of conversations, and we definitely reuse that and reshare that throughout the stretch of the show. So
Mhm.
that's a really big important thing that I know Cicely is going to continue to keep on typing away here for a second, but I wanted to at least re readdress some of that just in general, like some of the things that really stood out to me just as you were talking, again, just having that ability, the freedom to have
Mhm.
the space to do the thing that you want to do. Maybe that could be a priority for
Right.
somebody in 2022, is knowing when to step out and embrace that freedom and take that step. So many women are very hesitant about that.
And the hesitancy again, it comes from all those traditional mindsets, that, you know, uh, and I even hate to say it, but the truth of the matter is that, especially our generation, when we grew up, it was all about putting everybody else first. And, you keep hearing the whole thing about you can't pour from an empty cup and all of that, but, you got to take care of the family, you got to look perfect, so on and so forth. um the fact is, I think as women we need to like really stop and take stock of the fact that we're not, like, yeah, we do a lot of superhero things. Let's be clear on that. I'm not saying we don't, but at the end of the day, we're also people with limitations. And if we can't put ourselves first, whether it be in career or even health or even mental well-being, those all of those things are very important altogether. They're not like separate. So you have to put your physical, mental well-being, okay? We carry a lot around a lot of baggage, not just for ourselves, but sometimes even for our kids. Like they're having a hard day at school. Guess who's also going to be having a hard day? Yeah. And it's hard because you're trying to make everything better for them, but everything may not exactly be okay for you either for any number of things, any number of reasons. So we have to stop and be like, okay, there has to be a time. And I found this hard for myself as well, because when your kids are smaller, you're in the throes of babyhood, you're literally automatically changing diapers, and like somebody spit up somewhere, you got to clean that up, you're potty training all of them. And all of these things cause us to really forget that we do need time and space for ourselves. And it's different for different women. I know a lot of women like to do the self-care, take a hot bubble bath, and maybe go to a spa or something of that sort. But it's different for different women. I found that out as well. It's not the same. Like for me, I found that out that I liked biking. I had never biked before in my life. And when I started doing it, I found that this was something that I loved. And again, that's why I encourage other women to be like, okay, it doesn't have to be what other people like. It doesn't have to be maybe a skincare routine. It could be something else. It could be weightlifting. And I think we're so afraid as well to try things that are out of the box. And I think it's important for women to try out those things as well. Do your makeup routine. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that, with having that. But try something else as well. Maybe do, I don't know, zip lining. It's fun. Do horseback riding. Do something that you can maybe you don't like horseback riding, but at least you can say that I tried it. And it wasn't for me. Fine. We move on. Move on to something else.
I think you made such a good point there, with just saying that like there's so much freedom in the like we talked about fashion and
Right.
things like that on our clubhouse talk. Like there's so much freedom in
Right.
expression and being able to try and do new things. And both you and Danielle mentioned something that's like really interesting that I've seen as a shift. So with that statistic of the 18 to 34, I'm 33 and I'm turning 34 next week. So I'm still like just barely in barely kind of sort of like still hanging on by a thread in that
Right.
age demographic, which is hilarious. But I look at like what you both said, like both of you have very like similar, like your careers mirror each other. So like you're able to work home with the babies, you're able,
Right.
to do those things. When I like, at 18 to 31, I did not dream of working from home. I did not want to work from
Mm,
home. Like I was just like, "Ugh, I would
right.
never do that. Like,
Right.
now I'm like, can I work from home? Like I'm trying to work from home. Let me work from home. Yes,
Right.
volunteer. Who would like to work from home? I would. Cicely would, like right over here. So I think it's so funny how your priorities shift in that way. Like I swear to you, 18 to 22 years old in college, I never would have, I couldn't have dreamed of having a career where like I could actually make money being at home. Like
Right.
I feel like if I had told my parents at that age I had a job and I like could work from home, my parents would be like, "What? Like,
Yeah.
but what do you do?" Oh yeah,
Yeah.
like I work on my yeah, I do this from home. But how? Like they would just
Right.
have
Right.
so many questions. So I
At
think
least
that's
you just
awesome.
had that question, Cicely. It's like when I was getting into graphic design, I did my bachelor's in graphic design. It was like, but
Awesome.
what do you do? What does that
Right.
mean? Like I'm from that generation. I was like, but you're like, okay,
What are you
but
designing?
what does that mean? What does that exactly entail? What am I going to tell everybody else?
That is so funny. But I love that. And like in terms of priority shifting, I think like one of the things that I notice for all of us is that like as you become a mother, if that's what you want to do, as you become a creative, develop into a creative, your priorities do shift. So my question for you was kind of over kind of the course of your career, I guess, or like I guess pivotal moments you notice. How have your priorities shift throughout your life or throughout your career?
Well, again, when I started out in advertising long time ago. And it was again, it was a corporate job. At that time, we didn't have the concept of being able to do anything online at all. It was all brick and mortar, and everything was physically present. Yeah, the internet was there, but this is not what we used it for. We had to go to the office, like clock in, clock out, you know. If you're 5 minutes late, your pay gets docked. You know, there's all sorts of madness that we had to go through. And if you've ever worked in advertising, yeah, you get to clock in, but you don't get a clock out, okay? Because you're at the mercy of your client. That at 5:30 they'd be like, "Oh, but we need this changed." And we would like to have a meeting at 6:30. And I've done it all, okay? I've have some stories from that industry that would like make people's like blood run cold at this point. And at that time, that's all there was. But then uh, after that, after I got married and I had kids, I had a huge gap in my career. I couldn't work because I was moving around a lot. I wanted to get my master's degrees. I dedicated my time to my master's degree. Again, when I tried the brick and mortar, it just wasn't working out because I was moving so much. Credits don't transfer. At least at that time, they didn't. And I finally found my master's online. I did that master's, and after 4 years, I had a master's degree. And then I'm sitting here for the first time in a job after a good 10 years. And all the rules had changed. So even though my first job was like in PR, and it was also an online company, that was so new to me. I mean, like when they said that it's a complete remote position, I was like, you can do this now? Like I can be sitting at home and not have to like physically go somewhere to do this. Like I can do this. And but that job only lasted a year. But what it showed me was that the real power that really can come from working through the internet. And this was in 2019. At the end of 2019, I was let go, and then the pandemic and so on and so forth. And I was hitting brick walls when it came to like the traditional applying for jobs and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, we've tried the traditional route. Let's see if I can start my own freelance business career. And it was like a shot in the dark. It really was. But at that point, I had no other options. And I think a lot of people during the pandemic had that too. They didn't have a lot of options but to turn internet words, if that makes sense. Because a lot of people were laid off, and they were like, we still have to sustain ourselves, that sort of thing. It was that, I mean, I hadn't been working very long before that, but I did want to start my career because my kids were finally old enough to not need me 24/7. So, but with starting anything, it comes with its risks, and it comes with its learning curve. I didn't know what I was doing. And half the time, even right now, you're like, oh, I didn't know I had to do this as a freelancer as well. Anybody know how to file taxes? So I mean, in those respects, those things changed. I think the passion doesn't change. You
Mhm.
want to do something that I think you're proving to yourself as well that you're more than just the traditional titles that you've been given.
Mhm.
But you do have to sort of like then push through certain barriers within yourself and traditionally what other people hold as well. And again, I've come from a generation where it was that they would be like, but what about your kids, or what about this, and what
Mhm.
about that? So you do have to like stand your ground.
Oh yeah. And I really love the fact that I'm so glad you told us you lost your sound, Cicely. I do love the fact that you had mentioned a couple things. One, I love the fact that you mentioned one, a partial quote, if you will. Credits don't transfer. And I
Yeah.
love when you as soon as you said that, I was like, come on. I remember those days when credits don't transfer. I remember
Yeah,
this.
man.
This was a legit thing. But I
Yeah.
also want to say that is very not only is that a challenge, but use it as a form of optimism.
Right.
Yes, my credits don't transfer, but that doesn't mean that my experience does not have value.
Mm.
So I really hope that like people, I'm sure there's people out there in the world that really don't have credits that transfer in wherever place they are in the world. But Don't lose hope.
Yeah, and that's the thing that pushes you to that was one of the obstacles. It does
Mhm.
push you, and here's the thing, you have to push yourself to want better for yourself.
Yeah.
So you have to keep moving forward. Even if it's like inching forward, it doesn't matter. You got to keep moving.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think it is so important that as we talk about just in general wanting to find ways where we
Right.
can start to kind of connect those dots in a better way or in a different
Right.
way. When we make that pivot, that is the area where we can lean on that
Right.
expertise that, no one really is giving us credit for as women in tech
Right.
and women creatives. That's when we have to kind of lean on our own judgment, our own gut in a lot of ways.
And here's the thing, and this is very recent for me as well, is that we need to learn to celebrate ourselves as well. For
Mhm.
all the things that we put through, like push through for ourselves, our families, and still like be able to do all of these things that we do.
Yes, absolutely.
So
I
if you have a milestone coming up, you order yourself that cake. You get your
Yes,
own
come
crown, you get your
on.
own sash.
Yes, I love it. Like, I'm total Princess P fan or Princess Peach. So I'm like, you bake that cake. You do it. You do that.
You
Whatever
do
that
it.
is, you do
Yeah.
it. Celebrate it. I love that. Oh my goodness. Okay, so the other good some of the other takeaways that I took from what you were sharing with us. Real power is the real power is working through the internet. I absolutely love that. I
Mhm.
think I'm going to be like a little quotable that I put somewhere in my office because the real power is understanding that we can work through the internet. We don't have to
Right.
go around it. It's not some foreign obstacle. Maybe in some
No.
parts of the world it is. And I do want to address that too, not to be negligent of that. But it is one of those situations where access, right, is
Right.
so attainable. So it
Right.
makes those end goals more attainable because we have access to the things that we need to in order to level up.
And
And
you'd be
then,
surprised, the internet, internet access to the internet is one of the saving graces for a lot of people globally as well, because I live most of my life abroad as well. I know the impact the internet has had in other parts of the world.
yes.
It cannot be minimized at all. The internet has
Mhm.
been amazing for a lot of people.
Yes, exactly. And that's what I definitely wanted to make a strong note about that. When you said that, that's what immediately came to mind was, how many women went so long without that particular access.
Right.
And without that access, they couldn't level up or they
Right.
couldn't access the level of power that they feel now
Mhm.
because of that access.
Right.
So yeah, I definitely always want to acknowledge that. And you nailed that perfectly. So I love that quote. And then of course, as with anything comes with the learning curve. That really spoke to me because no matter what we do as creatives, it's always a learning curve, right? We're forever students.
Right.
And I think that's such a humbling approach that I absolutely love to, just really embrace that tomorrow, whatever I learn today, I can build upon for tomorrow.
Right.
Whatever I learn tomorrow is another avenue for me to build on the next day. So I mean, I'm a huge advocate of that phrase, and I'm glad that you were able to share that with other people who are listening today. Um, I kind of want to kind of go dive a little bit more into like a funner question because I like the fact that you asked that, Cicely. But I'm gonna shift a little bit to based on your industry, like what encouragement can you offer to our listeners out there who are seeking to make better priorities in 2022?
So here's the thing. I got two separate industries. If you want
Mhm.
to go with the graphic design industry,
Yeah.
I think the first thing and that's what I had to learn when I went into graphic design. Everything had shifted. When I started out, there was just Adobe Photoshop. That's it. Adobe was it. Okay, you didn't do jack without it.
Yeah.
But about like a little over a decade later, when I came back to it, you've got all of these tools out there that are amazing. Like literally anybody who has no experience whatsoever in graphic design can do pretty decent stuff. Like I'm not gonna lie, okay? And when I started out, it was more than a little discouraging. I was like, "Oh my god, my skill has become obsolete." But here's the thing. What you want to prioritize in that is the fact that you have something unique to offer. You just have to find it. And you have to find the right people who want it. Not everybody's going to want it, but you do have to do that a little bit of searching around. You do have to poke here and there to find the people who want what you are offering as a graphic designer. And it is, yeah, you will have to adapt. Adaptation is in every industry. As a graphic designer, I had to adapt to the fact that, yeah, there are other software out there. Then most people don't need something uber fancy or uber technical. I came from old school like design sort of thing, that it has to be a certain, like, it has to be matched up this way, the colors mean this, and there is a meaning in design, there's meaning in color. Not everybody wants that, and especially in this day and age, not everybody needs that. I focus on small businesses because I genuinely feel a connection to small businesses, because these are some of the most humble customers, and I love serving them. They don't need anything complicated, and they're some of the nicest people out there. They are very grateful for everything I do, even though I'm like, I'm barely doing anything for you, but like, I appreciate the praise. But that's the thing. You have to find what is it that you can offer them, and who do you want to offer it to? There's no, I mean, I would never limit anybody to just small businesses. You want to go for big corporations, big people, big industries, go for it. But what is it that you're bringing that somebody else isn't? And you have to see what other people are bringing to the table too. So you have to see that and then be like, okay, my priority is that I have this to offer, and I'm going to figure out what's the best way to reach out to the people that mean the most to me. So for graphic design, that would be my thing. As for podcasting, I mean, I offer podcast editing services, and I found that it was one of those things that I didn't realize was a need, but the need sort of popped up for other women, especially during 2020 pandemic. Everybody listening to a podcast. I have my own and that my podcast was like completely random. I keep telling everybody it was just completely on a whim, and I just enjoyed doing it. That's why I did it. But what I found out was that women wanted women editors, women podcast editors. It's traditionally a male field. I'm not saying male dominated. There are women audio editors, but they were not as accessible at that time. So when they find out that a woman is doing this, they're like, "I want you to do it." So I was like, "Okay, here I am."
I love it as editor to editor. I love it. I love it. I love seeing us shine. I love it. I think it's really cool that a couple of things. One, that you just completely embrace. Yes, it's different. Yes, it feels awkward even in that moment, but I'm gonna
Right.
keep doing it anyway
Yeah.
until I nail it, finesse it, whatever. And I think I love that. I love that fiery bravery. I'm moving forward, progressive feelings, and I think we need more of that in 2022. More of
Mm.
that pushing forward, more of that fiery, yes, I can. And I think as we start telling ourselves that more and more often, more opportunities, more doors, more
Right.
possibilities, the entire platform of us
Right.
moves forward. And that is
And
very, very powerful.
let me tell you this. We survived 2020, 2021. There ain't
Right.
no reason for you to stop now. There is no reason for you to stop now. Okay? We
Yes.
went through 2 years of madness. If you can push through 2 years of madness, you
Hmm.
can push through this year and make it about yourself.
Hmm. Yeah. I love that. Oh my goodness. Cicely, I know this is speaking all the love languages for you. So every time that we talk in general about, doing something forward and pushing forward, Cicely's like, get up out of my chair. Like, yep, that's it. That's the Sermon on the Mount. Like, that was it. So I think it's really cool that as we continue to talk about, prioritizing, I love that you address both podcasting and coming from a graphic design standpoint too. Is there anything else that you would want to say in general for people who are wanting to prioritize themselves in 2022 outside of the industry?
In general, I think what we need to prioritize for ourselves is that, I mean, where do we see ourselves moving forward? And on an individual level, yes, most definitely. Where are we seeing ourselves moving forward? But also, I think as a collective. Um, I keep having this discussion, argument, rant with everybody that I, I I meet is that we are not looking forward as a collective are where we need to go. We do need to prioritize certain things as a collective. Individually, yes, there's certain things that have to be done to, you know, to make things better. Okay. I'm not going to go back to normal anymore. We ain't got no normal. I don't like, I'm not sugarcoating nothing. We got no normal, but to move forward, to do what needs to be done, to do the right things, we have to really figure out where we're going and why we're going there and how to get there.
I loved how you said, like how you pretty much mentioned the collective, because I feel a lot of times, and this kind of ties back even into the quote that Danielle had about, women prioritizing work and careers now. I feel that that shift is happening
Right.
because as you see on TikTok, social media,
Mm,
that groups of women are getting together and saying, like, I don't know if you've seen, there's like different, like Twitter and TikTok, especially now, are really big about like these subgroups. There's like Black
right.
Twitter,
Yeah.
there's Black girl luxury TikTok, there's like Black people in tech, Black women in tech. So there's all these different subgroups
Right.
that 10 years ago, 5 years ago, even on social media, that
Mm.
weren't there. Like you just have to
Oh,
find them. Oh, hey, like, oh
yeah.
my gosh, you look like me. Like you're a brown person. You're working in this area too. You would
Right.
just see them in the office. But now that we're more remote, now that in the office is not 100% a thing at a lot of places, I feel that, like you said, we have to do what we need to for ourselves, prioritize that individually. But
Right.
that collective movement, I think, is what's really pushing women forward, and especially women in creative and tech is what really is going to get women moving in that direction. I've learned so much from Danielle. I've learned so much from like just connecting with people on
Right.
LinkedIn, connecting with people on TikTok. And I'm like, wow, like there's a whole nother world out there. And
Yeah.
there's a group, there's people who want to do this. There's people who
Right.
are doing this. Like it's so awesome that you mentioned just focusing on the collective as well, because individually you can have a great thriving career, but what good is that if you can't give back to someone who, is coming up behind you, or someone who's coming alongside you who may not know how to pivot or how to move in that direction. So that's
Right.
awesome that you mentioned that.
And that's the thing. That's, if anything else, nothing else from these 2 years. The 2 years, the pandemic itself has brought in these collectives, which I'm so grateful for. It came, like if you see the Black Lives Matter movement, the Me Too movement, these were things that apart from the pandemic, they came forward, and we needed that collective voice. We needed that collective motion. And that has brought in itself. And I'm like, I'm not as active on Twitter. Maybe I should be, but TikTok's my jam. Like TikTok's my therapist. I'm sorry. But I can see the collective, and I see the important work that they're doing, especially the Gen Zers. They're fantastic. I love them to bits. I keep telling everybody, but I do love them to bits because they are coming together in the most meaningful ways. And women on the internet, and I like, they are a godsend to me. They've been a godsend to me for a long time. But especially when I started my career, like in 2020, I didn't know Jack, but these women were there as a collective to help me out. For any woman out there that's like, I don't know how to do this, go on the internet, find a group somewhere. You'll find it. You will find it, and they will help you.
For sure. We're living in, it's the times. Like
It's the
like you said,
times.
it's that weird like cusper too. Like I always like joke, I'm a cusper, I'm on the cusp. So I'm definitely not in Gen Z, but like I'm in like kind of right in the middle of being a millennial. Like my husband's about seven
You're a
years older
small
than me.
millennial. I'm a vintage millennial. You're a small millennial.
Oh my God. I love it. But my husband's a millennial and he hates being called that. He's 41 and he's like, I'm not a millennial. And I'm like, yes, you are, sir.
It's
Like,
fine.
you
Own
still
it.
are. It's fine. That's what I said.
Yeah.
And he's like kind of on, like, he literally is about a year away from being, what is it? Generation X was before
Yeah,
millennials.
Gen X, yes.
So he's like right on the cusp there. So I see
Right.
like very different things. Like he still kind of has like, I don't want to do this, and he's not very much like into the internet, but
Right.
he'll get on social media. But me, I'm like, oh, we need to figure out how to do it. Let's YouTube it. I'm
Yeah.
going on TikTok. I'm gonna figure it out. Let's tweet it. Let's follow this guy on Twitter for like all these hacks. Like I'm that's the type of person I am. So I'm always like, we need to find something, we're going to the internet. We need to know how to do
Yeah.
something, we're going to the internet. So I think it's so funny. Like you said, mentioning those collectives. I mean, I found so many like such a community of like women friends and just people who were trying to do the same thing. And it's so awesome to have that support, even if they don't know you personally,
Right.
even if like, you all never meet other than virtually. It's so awesome to know that there are people out there who are, having the same goals that you have, who are just looking forward to life with the same fervor and excitement that you are, and just that they're ready to make their career change or ready to work from home or ready to
Right.
do some of those things. And
It's
a big thing too is just motherhood. Like
right.
I feel that motherhood almost was, like we mentioned before, almost mutually exclusive, that mother or career.
Right.
In the last, like, I'd say 30 years, that's been changing. Like since I was born, even, like, I
Mm,
am seeing a huge transition. And it's not even like, well, mom's got to take like this kind of job instead of that kind of job because she can't go up and move up in the ranks. It's mom can do whatever she wants. Mom can work from
yeah.
home. Mom can take on the corporate boardroom, and
Right.
all with a baby on her hip. Mom can
Yeah.
breastfeed. Mom can pump. Like all these things are changing in the workplace. So I'm looking forward to Gen Z
Mm,
dominating the workplace when it's time. Like when they're in their 20s, late
yeah.
20s, early 30s. I'm really excited to see what that trend and what that change is going to be for all of us.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I mean, I hate the whole discussion that everybody has this generationalism in them that my generation was better than this. I'm like, no, man. Like at this point, like what we as millennials experience and Gen Z experience is another level of freedom that is amazing. Like literally. And I mean, I see so many of these women that, at any given point that they would have been stuck just being a mom. It could have been any number of reasons. Okay. When I had started, I had my kids. My husband, he was earning enough that, I didn't have to do a second job. But even if I wanted to start a career, I'd have to put my kid in daycare. I couldn't afford to put my kid in daycare. And if at that time I was working on the internet, I could have been taking care of my baby and doing my work. And that has so radically shifted, and this was maybe 10 years ago. So that has shifted to creating more freedoms. And I think anybody like is on the fence about anything, they can know that they have the freedom to do many things. The only limitation is the mindset that, the hesitancy. And I understand there's a lot of different circumstances. It's not just a lot of different circumstances. But if you keep moving, keep pushing, keep prioritizing what you want for yourself, it doesn't have to happen in a day, in a week, or a month. Sometimes it takes a year or more, but it will happen because we have the tools to free ourselves.
Danielle's typing now. I was like, wait, she's typing. I couldn't get mute off. But I think that's such a wonderful point. And I love that you said
Oh, I think Cicely's
Oh,
internet.
she may have froze. Oh man,
Yeah,
we are really having it today. Oh my goodness.
it's
Um,
okay.
I absolutely. I mean, yeah, I was definitely typing. She's not kidding. I was literally like, whoa, feverishly typing. Keep prioritizing for ourselves.
Mm.
Woo! I mean, put that in the book of Sheila
And
Frost.
here's the thing. I think again, our generation, we grew up with thinking that's selfish.
Mhm.
It's not selfish at all. If you want to prioritize things for yourself, it's not selfish. You're
Yes.
not taking a we like, again, we're moms. We would never take away from our kids, like
Yeah.
take a bullet for them, like fight a bear,
Yes.
whatever it is. But, you know, if you need to work, do it. You
Yes.
need to do something else, do it. Okay.
Hmm.
If it helps you grow. I think the other thing is sometimes women forget that they need to grow too.
Yes.
That
Yes.
it's not just about the stagnation of motherhood or the stagnation of anything else. You do need to grow. Every
Hmm.
person needs to grow. I
Yeah.
think we forget that we should be growing. We should be doing all sorts of things to help us grow. It's not necessarily a career, but anything.
Yes.
Find what helps you grow and do it.
Oh my gosh, yes, urgency. The urgency is now. Like, not
Yes.
yesterday, it's now, because
Right.
what you could do today, you could progressively do again tomorrow and the next
Right.
day. And once it
Right.
becomes so easy to you, you can move on to the next great step
Right.
or the next big growth. I think
And
that
here's
is.
the thing.
Mhm.
You will always have a naysayer.
Oh yeah.
But you will. It will come from like the weirdest places. You will have naysayers, okay?
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, what you're doing is is to help yourself become better and grow.
Mhm.
And both of those things are not they're not optional. I think what we need to understand, those things are not optional. Those
Mhm.
things should be considered mandatory.
I love that. I love it. Oh my goodness, like all the feels. I don't know about y'all, but I'm filling my own cup up for 2022. And regardless of whoever's listening, I'm just like, okay, this message was for me, really deep down. I'm gonna be selfish, but I think as we talk more and more about
It's not selfish,
prioritizing.
Danielle. You need to grow.
Oh, here we
It's not
go.
selfish. I'm gonna tell you.
I'm gonna soak it all up. I'm just gonna soak it all in. Yes, this is what I need. I love it. I love it so much. I kind of want to like veer a little bit and have like a little bit of fun. So, like, what did you want to be growing up? That's one of my questions for you.
Everybody's gonna laugh because this is one of those things I like. My mom keeps bringing up this story because when I was a kid, we like didn't have a lot of TV choices. You had documentaries and maybe like half an hour cartoon somewhere. Okay. I think my very first thing was I wanted to be a mailman. Okay. And the only reason I wanted to be a mailman is because I love receiving letters. But when you're a kid, you're never like you're not the one getting the letters. That doesn't
Right.
comprehend to you. You're the one delivering the letters. But I love getting letters as a kid. And I was like, I want to be a
Oh,
mailman because you're surrounded by mail.
I love this. And here you are, and now you're delivering invoices.
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm
let's
delivering
just
invoices.
yeah,
And I'm
full
still getting
circle.
deliveries, but they're Amazon deliveries.
I
Okay. Those are my presents to myself.
I love this. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So you're still being the delivery woman. We're just doing it a
Mm,
different way. You're delivering a whole
yeah.
nother set of goods.
Self-care. This is not selfish, okay?
Yes. Yes. Come on. I'm so for this. I love it. I absolutely love that. Okay. So as we kind of walk more into, talking about prioritizing on our scale for women in tech and women
Mhm.
creatives, I really kind of want to kind of resurface back into the space of the work on self that Cicely refers to all the time that we have to do
Right.
for ourselves in order to be the person that we want to be, either for other
Mhm.
people or for ourselves.
Right.
So is there any set of specific tools or resources that you use regularly to kind of help put things in priority or perspective for you?
Ooh, gosh. If I had to especially when you're working from home, Google is your friend, Google Calendar is your friend. Please make lists, okay? Our brains are not wired to remember all sorts of information, especially if, like me, you're not doing one thing at any given moment. Please write it down, okay? And that's the only way that anything's ever going to happen. And it's hard. I'm not going to lie, you do get excited. I remember getting excited with my first couple of clients. I took in too many. And I was like, and then you freeze and you're like, I I can't do this. I and that's the thing. You do have to understand your own limitations as well. Prioritize your happiness, but you have to understand that, you can only work up to a certain point. It's not even about the kids or whatever else that comes with like household things. As a person, you do have your limitations, and guilt is not something that you need to be carrying around. Okay. Guilt has its purpose, but when it comes to these sort of things, you have to draw a clear line that I can only take 4 clients. And that might not seem a lot to people. And sometimes it doesn't even seem like a lot to you because you're not raking in a whole lot of money. But if you take in like 10 clients and you're constantly late, it at the end of it all, it's not worth it. It's not worth the mental stress you give yourself. And plus, it's a commitment to somebody else as well. So you don't want to mess that up. So know where your limitations are, make lists. And here's the thing, don't be stuck on certain things. I know some people are better at certain skills. Some people, I know a lot of people who are brilliant at hand drawing. And there was a time when I used to exclusively hand illustrate as well. And I was like, I don't like digital artistry for XYZ reason. I'm not saying it's bad, but you do have to be able to adapt to certain things. I used to use only Adobe, but I don't use Adobe anymore at all. I've sworn it off because I'm not getting into the whole subscription thing. Like, no, man, like, you can't take my money every month. You can't. I found other softwares that work just as well for me. And I only have to pay for them once. Automatic update. I'm going to go for that. So go around, see what works better. It's not about a set of rules. There's no set of rules anymore. Everything shifts. And sometimes, yeah, you can't keep up with the shift. And that's okay too. You can't keep up with the shift. Keep up with what you can keep up, because this digital world shifts every few days. Like I know a lot of social media managers, they're like, oh, the algorithm has gone wonky again. And I'm sitting there, I'm so glad I'm not in this industry because I'd have lost my mind.
Yeah, I lose it.
Because like that's what they're saying, that like once like a certain like kind of hashtagging works, the other time it doesn't work this way. You have to post certain kind of content, and then the next month it doesn't work that way. Engagement is up, engagement is down. I'm like, oh gosh, like just like that, just the thought of it like makes me anxious. Like it's not an industry I would do well in. But the thing is, it's a rapidly changing thing for no matter which industry you're in. If you're in the graphic design industry, today it's Adobe, Canva. The other day it could be something else. At least be willing to try it and see, how does it work for you? It doesn't work for you, fine. There's no like hard and fast rule about it. But you do need to be able to understand that people are on the internet and they're aware of stuff now. It's not like you're the expert. You're not the expert anymore. You're somebody that provides a service. I think there was at a certain point there was a certain level of arrogance that came with the industry, that you were like, I'm the expert here. I know what I'm talking about. You don't know what I'm talking about. But now it's not the same anymore.
Yeah, in a blink of an eye, someone can have that instant knowledge at the tip of their fingertips. It just depends on how fast they press the search button or what have you, or research button. So,
Yeah.
hmm I feel
That,
that.
like I said, I mean, like I'm sitting here, almost 40-year-old, like vintage millennial with a
You
podcast.
are not. Stop. We're just gonna
Yeah,
no. We're gonna cap you off.
no, it's the truth. Like, here's the thing: I have zero issues with aging. Okay, was one of my. I have zero issues with aging. But when you think about it, like, why does she have a podcast when, like, several years from now, this could not have been a thing?
Hmm
Like, how did she get a podcast? And I tell this to everybody. This is my story. My podcast started with a lavalier mic plugged into my phone.
Yes.
That's it. That was the podcast. And but the thing is, that's how it is now. For those that have been in the podcasting industry for a decade, they'd be like, how did you end up here? Why are
hmm
you in the same line as us? That sort of thing.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
we have to work with a certain level of humility with the fact that there's a lot of information out there and we don't have all of it.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, constant sponge. I just love that. Constant perspective of being a student. I think that's
Right.
so essential. Cicely, speaking of students, Cicely, was there any like major takeaways that you really got out of that? Because I really feel like I have I have said all the things. So I just want to make sure that I'm making sure that you definitely, if you want to say something out there, put that out there.
Well, when I'm not having technical difficulties, I don't know. My everything was just crazy today, but I really appreciate that you said understanding your own limitations. I just think as women, as people who work from home, people who work for companies, people who work for selves, we're always kind of stretching, and stressing ourselves
Mm,
in ways that just don't benefit us at all. So
right.
I think understanding your limitations is probably the biggest lesson I've taken away in my 30s, just like as I learn and grow and adapt as a person, as as a nurse, as if anyone who's doing anything, that's my thing, is I understand my limitations. I understand
Right.
that, like you said, like there's really, I'm not an expert in anything. Like I know a whole bunch of about a lot of things, and I
Right.
might be a go-to person about, certain things, but
Yeah.
that at the end of the day, I might be able to disseminate information, explain it a little bit better, but you can really find everything that I know and that you can find it on the internet.
Mm,
But kind of going back to what you said before with like graphic design, like you could be a graphic designer, Danielle can be a graphic designer, but each of you and every graphic designer out there brings something completely different to the table.
right.
So there might be millions of you in title, but there's not another one of Shella. There's not another one of Danielle that can
Yeah.
bring what you all bring to your clients. So that's another important thing too. Understand your limitations, but also understand how unique you are and how unique whatever you offer, whatever your talents are, how unique they are to your clients and how
Right.
unique they are to the world, to the collective even. So yeah.
Right.
So thank you so much for just highlighting that, especially the limitations, because whoo Lord, I'd be limited sometimes.
No, but here's the
And I'm
thing,
okay with that.
we're as women, we're hardwired to keep pushing until like something snaps. And I'm not even just talking about mentally. Like again, I don't wish this for the younger generation, but that's how we were programmed. That you have to do this, and keep going. Somebody asks you to do something, you have to do that as well. If somebody asks you to do something, you do that as well because you got to be nice. But it really serves very little purpose if you're dead at the end of it. Okay. I mean, yeah, we're all going to die. That's not the point. Okay. But the fact is that again, at the end of the day, you are important. Prioritize yourself. And that if nothing else, people do need, women especially need to understand that they do need to prioritize themselves, set boundaries. I'm in all honesty, even in the career, I've had like occasions where I've had some pretty shady clients, and I'm like, this doesn't. And when if your gut tells you this doesn't feel right, chances are high that it ain't right. Okay, somebody's trying to play you, and you should not be played. Okay, you do hard work, and you should not be played. So that's the thing. As women, we need to be able to set reasonable boundaries that, yeah, I can't do everything. Not Superwoman, not Wonder Woman. I'm just Danielle, Cicely, Shella, or whoever it is. And I do need to sit down. I need to breathe. I need to feel okay at any given moment.
Absolutely love it. That's exactly how I feel as well. I mean, that's just there's a obviously mommy in the background. There's just a lot that kind of comes along with wanting to prioritize yourself and really and actually, know, intimately wanting to do it. There's a difference between saying the words and then actually doing the thing.
You have to set a boundary for that as well. Because here's the thing, when you're everybody's so used to being just like mom, like it's not just your kid, my kid as well. Somebody would be peeking at the door right now, and they know I'm in the middle of something. But you have to set the clear boundary to prioritize yourself. Yeah, people are not going to like it, whether it be clients or whoever it is. They're not going to like it because they're not used to it. But the fact is, you put yourself first. because it's
Mhm.
important.
That's it. If we can't function, we can't. Other people can't function, and
It shouldn't even be about that only. Like,
yeah,
even
agreed.
if you don't have a family, let's pretend you don't have a spouse, you don't, but
Mhm.
even then, like, there are pressures, extra pressures on women to prioritize everything else.
Yep.
Like,
Hmm.
if you want to go out, like, there's a pressure to look a certain way.
That's so
What if
true.
Yeah, what if I don't want to look a certain way? Like, if we make that boundary, you have like 10,000 people saying, "Oh, but why is she that way? Or why is she doing that? Or why this? Why?" But it's my life, my existence, okay? Y'all don't like it? That's a you problem, not a me problem.
Right. I heard that. I love it. I think that's so important that we kind of always go back to that. What works for you, what works for you. It doesn't have to
Yeah.
work for me, it doesn't have to work for Cicely. It,
Nope.
it can work individually just for us.
Yeah. So I mean, that's the thing. I When it comes to priorities, it's a difficult task for women because we're so hardwired to not prioritize ourselves. And I think this generation is learning it, and I'm glad they're learning it early because I had to learn it at this age. And it's you have to like really break down a lot of mental constructs before you can get to that. Really. And that's the thing. If for anybody who like is feels that in a situation that they don't know how to prioritize themselves, rule number 1 is that you have to start to learn to create boundaries. That's not easy either. If you have a therapist, go to a therapist, have them help you to create healthy boundaries so you can prioritize yourself. It's a mandatory, not an option. It's a mandatory.
Yeah, I completely agree. There's actually a book specifically focused on boundaries from I think it's like McLeod and Townsend. There's some deep psychological people that are really out there in the world, but they have
Right.
a book on boundaries, and I promise you, I picked that up when I was very early, right as I was a mom for the first time.
Right.
And I started creating those boundaries for myself. And I
Right.
kid you not, every time that I have some sort of like turning point in my life, I have kept that book. It is
Mm,
worn and torn, and the pages are
right.
weary, but they
Right.
have continually provided that insight of, setting those specific boundaries for yourself, whether
Right.
physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, whichever,
Right.
to really kind of push yourself forward and allowing you to give yourself the grace and the space so that
Mhm.
you can feel comfortable and empowered enough to make the next move, whatever that new move may be.
Right.
But I love the fact that you speak so very, very, very definitively about boundaries and how that really correlates with making the right priorities for
Right.
yourself.
And
Mhm.
here's the second thing. If we can create boundaries for ourselves, it's not just for ourselves, especially for moms. As moms, I mean, for a certain number of years, we have little people attached to us. Like they're like an extension, like they're third arm or something like that. It's I'm not even kidding, but that's how it is. It's like, but if you can learn to create boundaries for yourself, it also teaches your kids a very integral lesson that boundaries are okay. And I'm like, this is for all the parents because what it does is that it also creates children. They're very strong-willed, okay? And I face that with my kids, and it's hard when they're kids, but you're teaching them the right lesson. Yeah, they're gonna fight you a lot more. That sort of comes with the territory, but it also ensures that when they're older, they know how to say no, and they know that what is good for them and what isn't good for them. It's a very important lesson for them to learn.
I love that. I absolutely love that. Oh my goodness. I think we've had a really, really, really amazing chat today. Just about prioritize whether you are a mom in the field or not, if you're a
Right.
corporate or not, if you're an entrepreneur or not. I think there was something throughout this entire conversation had that really hopefully stuck with you in some way or fashion that really spoke to you in some way. We're gonna wrap up the show with our favorite thing that we love to do. which is obviously in general talking about this quiz, right? We do the slash questionnaire where we
Oh my gosh.
give you something randomly to think about, and you just blurt out what comes out first. But before we kick that off, how can people find you, invest in you? Can they know more about the podcasting services that you offer?
Oh, thank you. For my graphic design service and editing services, you can reach me at my website at www.creativecookie.jar.com. And for my podcast, the title is I'm a Muslim and That's Okay. And you can find it on every platform. You can find me on my website at www.imamuslimpodcast.com and even on Instagram at I'm a Muslim Podcast.
Woohoo! I love it. Y'all better follow her for already. I mean, I already am. I'm guilty. I'm already doing it. So if you don't do it,
Oh,
like,
thank
snooze Liz.
you.
Sorry, I was pulling up my stuff.
Yeah.
I promise I didn't freeze. All right. So I promise it's straightforward and it's fun.
Okay.
All you have to do is the first thing that pops into your head. So
Okay.
you don't have to like sit and kind of like ruminate on it. It's nothing like super invasive or personal.
Okay.
Just some fun, quirky stuff that we like to ask.
Okay.
So the first thing is something that you've learned, something new you've learned in the past year, life lesson, hobby, fun fact, etc.
Podcasting. Like if I had to, like, the one thing that was the most fun for me and the thing that evolved for me the fastest was podcasting, because
That's
I
awesome.
started out with one, it sort of shifted into my career, but I now do two separate podcasts. So one is for a religious organization that's close to our house. So that's it. That's one of those things that I've learned the most and had the most fun with.
Oh, that's awesome. I love it. Your favorite vacation or getaway spot?
Oh gosh, the beach. The beach is my
Oh, yeah.
thing. Any beach, like, just have me sit next to the water and leave me alone.
Absolutely. I feel that. Sweet snacks or salty snacks?
Salty, always a savory person. I mean, just like potatoes, chips, whatever. Bread. Bread is my thing. And I'm like, I'm a carb addict through and through.
You're in good company, so don't feel bad. Harry Potter or Star Wars?
Oh, that's a tough one. I'm only gonna say Harry Potter, because I've read all the books, but I've not, like, gone through the entire, like, the trilogy and all the other things that came out with Star Wars. I did the original 3. Does that count? I don't know.
It counts. There's so many. I don't even know how. I lost count like a long time ago, so you're okay.
Yeah, and I keep telling everybody I'm like literally decades behind on TV, so please don't ask me.
I love that. But like I said, like when all the trilogies and the extra stuff came out, they lost me too. I was like, I can't keep up. And all the
Yeah.
backstories, even though it came out after like 20 years later, like I'm confused. Stop it. All right. Digital books or physical books?
Physical books. I still haven't gotten into, because I'm a bibliophile.
Mhm.
And even though right now I don't have a whole lot of time to read and everything, I love the smell of books. That's the generation I'm from. I'd be going to secondhand bookstores. I'm just like taking in how the books smell. I love it. And
love
like
it.
pitch a tent and just sit there.
Oh, I love that. If you could go back in time, where would you go and whom would you see?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I think if I had to go back in time, when I think about it, I would go back to when I was smaller. You know, when you're smaller, you have so many insecurities about yourself. If you turn out okay, and just show myself to myself, and then, like, you turn out okay.
I love that. That's such a sweet answer. I think that's like one of the sweetest answers we've ever had. I love that. But like, look at us. Like, look, we're cute. We're successful. Like, I love it.
Yeah, we did it. Like,
Yes.
yeah, you're a little strange, but your strange is what makes you powerful.
Yeah.
Right. And people are going to love that strange.
I don't know about that. I can't tell you that, Cicely, but that strange is what is powerful. I think
I love that.
I'm going to keep going on and on, but for women, I think we have also limited ourselves to be a certain kind of way. Strange does not come into that picture, but to be strange is a very wonderful and powerful thing. We just don't realize it.
Oh, I love that. Absolutely. I 100% agree. Your love languages or love language, if there's only
That's
really
a
one.
hard one. I think definitely words of affirmation and physical touch.
I love it. See, that wasn't that hard. You already knew. And then
did.
you're like, oh, yeah. All you have to do is think about it for a second. And then the best part of being a grown up.
The best part of being a grown up. Now that's a hard one.
That is hard.
Yeah. Here's the thing. You know what the best part is? That you find out that all the rules that you were told are pretty arbitrary and that they don't really apply to real life.
Amen. I
Yeah.
think that's amazing. That's the best part. That is
Yeah.
absolutely the best part. That's awesome. That is awesome. Well, that's all the interrogation that I have. But thank you for so willingly participating.
No, it was fun.
This has been absolute fun for me. Like, I always love chatting to other fellow creatives that are already in their lane doing their great things. And I think it's so intuitive as we continue to have more conversations. There are so many more things that unite us and separate us. So whenever
Absolutely.
place that you are in the world, whatever you are and listening to this message, know that you're not alone. There's
Right.
3 of us right here. We're huddled
Yeah.
together from all different areas of the world. Just know that. Just know that you're not alone, and there's a place for you here virtually for you to reconnect, unwind,
Right.
learn, uplift, feel empowered, and have those steps mentally and emotionally to go forth and do whatever next forward thing that you want to do.
Yes.
So,
Absolutely.
yeah, I'm really appreciating everyone who jumped on here and listened. For all of you out there, if you want to continue to follow the More Than Graphics podcast, we'd so love it. We want to thank you for listening. We want to continue to encourage you to subscribe and follow us wherever you listen to podcasts. Send us your feedback on Facebook or Twitter or however wherever you listen to podcasts on how your life stories are creating and how we're creating a virtual safe space for you, and whether we're helping you navigate or empower or encourage you. And be sure to check out the morethangraphicspodcast.com and subscribe to our emails for exclusive behind the scenes moments, like Clubhouse, because that's where we live practically in between these episodes. So
Right.
definitely jump on the More Than Graphics podcast on Clubhouse. You can find us in the club if you really want to go 50 Cent. We can do all the things. But thank you all for listening and watching, and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Bye.
Bye.